After months of agonizing waiting, the family of bomber pilot Shahid Kazemi finally found a grim kind of peace. On a quiet Friday, his remains were brought back and buried in his hometown of Shiraz. But Kazemi didn't fly his final operation alone. He was part of a 4-man strike team, and right now, the fates of the other 3 crew members are a total blank. We know where they were heading. Their target was Udeid Air Base in Pan, a massive, heavily guarded joint forces installation right in the middle of the Gulf. While one family can finally grieve with a grave to visit, the silence surrounding the other 3 men leaves a massive gap in the record. We are left trying to piece together one of the most dangerous and mysterious operations in the modern history of the Iranian Air Force. To understand what these pilots were up against, look at the first layer of Udeid's defensive perimeter. The airspace is actively protected by multiple battalions of Patriot missile batteries. If an attacker somehow slips past the surface-to-air missiles, they face a second barrier, elite F-15s constantly patrolling the Gulf. Run the numbers, and the tactical reality is bleak. Military planners knew that sending aging bombers into a defensive web this tight meant the probability of a safe return was effectively 0. Yet, these 4 men stepped up anyway. Driven by a need to avenge their fallen comrades, they actively asked for the assignment. They strapped into their aircraft knowing they were massively outgunned. It was a conscious choice to sacrifice themselves for the mission, accepting that they were flying directly into a wall of superior technology. The mission launched from Shahid Douran Air Base. The crews were flying Su-24 bombers, airframes that first entered service in the 1970s and lacked modern upgrades. Their immediate problem was survival. To even get a visual on the target, they had to cross a gulf flooded with overlapping enemy radar signals without being instantly targeted. This chart shows their only viable tactic, an aggressive descent. They dropped altitude to skim the Earth's curvature, hiding in the ground clutter. Flying heavy bombers near Mach 1, they stayed well under 100 feet, sometimes pushing it to 50. At that height, there is no margin for error. A microsecond of distraction, a slight dip of the nose, and the plane hits the water. It requires punishing physical endurance and absolute concentration from the pilot. The planes themselves had no advanced stealth capabilities to offer. The only thing keeping them off the enemy's radar screens was raw human nerve. They pushed across the Gulf and made their final approach toward Qatar. But right as they closed in on Udeid, the facts break apart into 2 entirely different stories. One account claims the bombers never made it to the drop zone. According to this version, the Qatari Defense Network picked them up early and shot them down before they reached the airspace over the base. The official military narrative says the exact opposite. It claims the pilots breached the base's perimeter, hitting their targets using unguided FAB series gravity bombs. Continuing with the official story, the problem wasn't the attack itself, but the escape. As the heavy bombers banked hard to return to Iran, they were intercepted and destroyed by Qatari F-15s. Whether they were intercepted on the way in or ambushed on the way out, the skies over the Gulf descended into chaos. That intercept created a dense fog of war, completely obscuring the exact final moments of the crew. Stepping back from the bravery of the pilots, we have to look at the decisions made by command. The most glaring question is why these bombers were sent deep into hostile territory without any fighter escorts to provide top cover. Standard military doctrine is clear. Large, vulnerable bombers need agile fighters flying with them to fend off enemy interceptors. For this mission, that protocol was entirely ignored. Then there is the payload. Iran has domestically produced long-range cruise missiles designed for exactly this aircraft. Why force the pilots to fly directly over the base to drop short-range gravity bombs? This diagram shows the difference. Gravity bombs force a plane right into the red zone. A standoff cruise missile allows a pilot to launch their payload from miles away, keeping the aircraft completely outside the base's deadly inner defense rings. By skipping the escorts and relying on close-range munitions, the planning itself multiplied the danger. These logistical choices turned a high-risk strike into an almost certain sacrifice. Strategically, this was the most aggressive cross-border operation the Iranian Air Force had attempted in years. And yet, despite the loss, it provided valuable tactical intelligence. Planners learned that highly motivated crews, flying at absolute minimum altitudes, can still exploit gaps in modern, sophisticated radar networks. But that success is overshadowed by the hardware. Staring down Patriot missiles and F-15s from behind 60-year-old analog dials is a losing battle. You cannot sustainably run an air force by asking human pilots to compensate for massive technological gaps with their lives. The operation exposed a desperate need for the military to modernize its fleet. But tactical lessons and radar data don't answer the most pressing question left by the strike. While Shahid Kazemi has been laid to rest in Shiraz, 3 families are still waiting. They are trapped in a quiet, agonizing limbo, hoping for any word about what happened to their sons. Until the actual wreckage is recovered, or the remaining crew is fully accounted for, the exact sequence of events over the Gulf stays locked away. The mission's ultimate legacy is the unwritten final chapter for the 3 men left behind.